Roman pie, Fritot of Rabbit, chopped suey, angels on horseback, Picalilli, chicken Maryland and velvet cake sound like recipes from any old recipe book, but they're not. They're just a few of the recipes prepared by Lilly Longman around 100 years ago for a family of extended royals in London, who back then employed her as a scullery maid. Every recipe was handwritten all those years ago in Lilly's cookbook, which still exists today. It's been translated into modern day English and brings back to life historical recipes in Edwardian and Victorian times cooked for nobility. Lilly Longman's original 100-year-old recipe book contains over 200 recipes and takes cooking back to good old economic basics. Good, wholesome, tasty food, simple ingredients, cooking the old way. Each recipe in the cookbook includes a scanned image of Lilly's original handwritten recipe, a translated ingredients and method list, and most have a photograph of the finished dish. The book covers a whole range of recipes including starters, meat dishes, sauces and salad dressings, soups and stews, poultry and fish dishes, soufflés, omelettes, cakes and puddings, and sweets, biscuits, jelly and icing, pickles and chutney, and for those that like to dabble, some wines and some other drinks. Lilly's own salad recipe actually won a prize of 12 guineas in a Daily Mail competition in 1932. Roman pie is definitely one of my favourites. You can use any kind of leftovers. In today's economic climate, keeping the purse strings tightly held is important, and this recipe is so versatile in that way and very tasty. Well, what about this one? Homemade Picalilli. This is great because if you like, you can make quite a lot of it and then share it with family and friends. Believe it or not, Lilly actually prepared chopped suey for her noble employers all those years ago. Now this one, homemade, will save you on takeaways. Fritot of Rabbit, a great recipe marinating the rabbit and presenting fabulous, tasty dish. Remember, demands were high on Lilly to cook for nobility, so today we're all sure to enjoy these recipes. I love starters, and corn fritters as per Lilly's recipes are really simple. These are great for a barbecue, which you can tell your friends all about the recipe, which dates over 100 years ago. Now that's a talking point. Well, of course, nothing beats a pudding. Lilly prepared some mouth-watering puddings for her employers and they're all in the book. Velvet cake is definitely my favourite. It's a light cake sprinkled with almonds and full of taste. To coin a phrase, the icing on this cake is actually the ground almonds. Coleshill Pudding is very popular with the people who've bought the book so far. It's an apple dish and it really does hit the spot. Also French Pineapple Tart, another rich offering which would pretty much tempt anyone. Lilly's book is a fascinating journey back into history, so let's take a look at the history behind this amazing book. Well, Lilly Longman was born in 1832 and became a kitchen assistant at the age of 16, working for the family in their main home, which was in Talgarth Road, London. At some point, Lilly married the family chauffeur, and at the approximate age of 27, she became the household cook after 11 years working as the assistant. During this time, Lilly maintained, enhanced and corrected her recipe book. As was often true in the upstairs-downstairs life of Victorian England, Lilly had an affair with a member of the family upstairs and gave birth to a daughter, Phoebe Ann, who is the late mother of the current owner of the recipe book, the original recipe book, Alan Taylorson. So Alan Taylorson, who we call Little Al, Lilly's grandson, retired on Corfu a few years ago. He became friends with Alan Smith, known as Big Al, a retired business person from the UK who also retired on the Greek island of Corfu. One day Little Al mentioned the existence of the original recipe book his grandmother penned, and Big Al instantly took an interest and a long project began. Big Al spent 18 months painstakingly researching the old weights and measures, substituting ingredients no longer available, and actually went about preparing every dish that was recorded in Lilly's handwritten book. After the book was published, the two Allans commissioned a website to launch it, and since then it's moved on in leaps and bounds. According to feedback, it's been a hit because people seem, particularly in today's economic climate, to need to cook on a budget, but they want good wholesome food for their family, just like back when Lilly cooked. Here's another great recipe which is simple and tasty. Angels on horsebacks, a strange combination of fish, bacon and bread, but then it has to be good if nobility enjoyed it around 100 years ago. We all love vegetable soup and it's a popular dish, but Lilly Longman's recipe book used some simple tips like adding a little chilli or garlic just to enhance the taste a bit. Chicken Casura, it's a kind of casserole. It has ingredients easily available and cheap, most of which we all have already. Back when Lilly cooked, nothing would be wasted, if it could be saved, and there's a really interesting section entitled To Correct Mistakes. Things like cake with sinking fruit, sauce, soup or stew that's too salty, pastry that breaks when you roll it, fixing burn pastry and solving the problems of a cake that's sunk in the middle. Some of Lilly's secrets from 100 years ago revealed. Cooking on a budget, wholesome food for all the family and knowing that the recipes bring history back to life are just part of the Lilly Longman experience and what's made the book so popular. You can order Lilly Longman's 100-year-old recipe book securely online via the Lilly Longman website via the PayPal system. We certainly hope you enjoy reading the book, the history behind it and preparing some of the fantastic recipes that again have been brought back to life from around 100 years ago.